What would you do if Tsunekazu Ishihara, the current president of the Pokémon Company, called you up on the phone and went, "Hey man, I'm retiring from this job. Do you want it?" What would you do? Because I know if I was asked that question, I'd respond with, "How much power do I get?" And that is the premise of what today's video is. If you had unlimited power over the Pokémon franchise, what changes would you make? I have a few, and by a few I mean a lot, of small, and by small I mean big, changes that I would make. But what are my credentials? What authority do I have to make such decisions? How do we know I'm not just a self-pandering dictator over this franchise? Well, in terms of credentials, I have no credentials. My credentials are that I have baby videos of me with my siblings watching Ash being turned into stone in the background. Does that count? And my authority is that I am the current president of the Pokémon Company. Mr. Ishihara himself decided that I, an American who he has never met, will take charge of this Japanese company. And I refuse to answer the last question. I feel like this is pretty obvious, but I want to be extra clear that this is just a fun thought exercise that I have. Pokémon is a wonderful franchise, and I, someone who is only a fan of the company's work and has no experience with running a company, have no intentions of seriously criticizing their efforts. This is all just in good fun. On to the changes. Change number 1. No more new regions. We're at... Hang on, let me check. We're at 9 regions, just in the main series games alone. I know there are more regions in the secondary games, but just for main series games, we have Kanto, Kanto 2.0, Water, the best region, Merca, France, Aloha, England, and the recently announced Spain without the S. That is an absurd amount. Why do we need that many? And why don't we just expound upon the regions that we already have established, like with the Legends Arceus game? Let me make a visualization for you. Let's say this line here is the storyline for a region. Since we're following one person, the story has one dimension. Then if we pull a DJ Khaled and add another one, we add another dimension to the story. And if we do it again, we have a fully fleshed out 3-dimensional world. It feels like Pokémon likes the honeymoon phase of creating a world, but once it comes down to making this feel like a functional society, they hop into making a brand new region and ignore the one they just made for a decade until it's time to update it to modern day graphics. Quality over quantity, guys. Do you get what I'm saying? Change number 2. No more mass releases of new Pokémon. Let me explain what I mean by that. I mean that there can be new Pokémon discovered here and there as a treat, similar to how Mew was an elusive and newly discovered Pokémon in the old games, but there will be no mass laundry basket of new Pokémon dumped onto us every year. We are at over 1,000 Pokémon at this point. I shouldn't have to explain my point any further. Quality over quantity, people! Have you ever noticed how the Pokémon side games look incredible while the main series games have battle animations that look like a kid is using a stagnant amiibo to attack? Like, I see Pokémon Snap, which looks like this, and then I see this. Like, at least make the eyes line up. My goodness. My point is that let's instead use the creative energy used for making new Pokémon like this for making actually good animation in the main series games. And those are my 2 main changes. I know they're pretty drastic changes, but it's my alternate universe where I'm the president of the Pokémon Company, and I get to choose the path of this multi-million-dollar franchise. So in general, what I imagine new main series Pokémon games to look like is that we revisit previous regions. Heck, we can even visit regions from the side games like Almia, the Orange Islands, Lental, and make these places feel like societies that were established before some 10-year-old decided to go save the world. I think some great examples of this are with the Hisui regions in Legends Arceus and the Delta episode in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Imagine the Delta episode as its own entire game like Legends Arceus. Wouldn't that be so cool rather than it being a mini adventure after the main one? Or, hear me out, I read this on a Reddit post about the Delta episode from user JJ Aldridge 2009, not to be confused with JJ Rick Studios. Shout out to that guy.
Hey.
I'd like to see a game in the future that includes that whole level 1 to 50 team build, the badges, Elite Four, Champion, then head off to a new place for levels 50 to 100 as a traveling champion. Encounter some other hyper-powerful trainers, but break apart from the 8 gyms Elite Four Champion formula. I want multiple people running around with signature legendaries and megas. Reading that made me think of my own idea for a Pokemon game. You start out as an already established champion like Red and travel through all the regions battling the champion of that region as an equivalent to gym leaders while getting to meet and battle with iconic trainers from the past as well as new ones who have all the legendary Pokemon. You can see how these legendary Pokemon work as domesticated creatures being led by humans and expand on their individual lore. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like you meet this trainer who has the legendary Heatran who is very difficult to tame, and this trainer who has the legendary Shaman who is so sweet and friendly to their trainer. Imagine you've seen and he has all 3 legendary beasts! And instead of starting a team from the ground up, Red has already completed the Pokédex, so you have access to all non-legendary Pokemon who are at level 50, and you train them from there without unnecessary grinding. Why haven't people thought of this before? Anyways, with the new anime coming soon, let's look back on the adventures of Dear Ash Ketchup. Ash is interesting because it's the opposite of what I was saying with the surplus of regions. Where there is no dedication to fully fleshing out a region and just skipping it to the next one, Ash needed to retire a handful of generations ago. He has been so thoroughly milked of any and all character development that when his model finally got teeth, people flipped. So what would we do for an anime? Well, might I suggest the Pokemon Adventures manga? Please? I have been waiting my whole life for this to become an anime, but I digress. Maybe that will become the premise for another video another time. Thank you all so much for watching, and be sure to let me know in the comments. What would you do if you had complete control over the future of the Pokemon franchise, or maybe a different franchise? I hope you enjoyed this, and maybe I'll see you again? I don't know, but love you guys.